Mention cracking guests, and the first one to join me during this hour to cover that and much more news is Roger Gewolb, who I could describe, Roger, as business, finance and CEO, political expert and former advisor to the Treasury, former advisor to Number 10, the Bank of England. I mean, come on, where does it end? Let me ask you this.
Good
Roger.
afternoon.
Well, that's kind of you to say so. That we got off to a good start. How involved should the UK be in global conflict, do you think?
It depends. I think it depends on the conflict. A localized conflict somewhere in Africa or South America, there's all sorts of those that we needn't be involved in. But I think the conflicts that you mentioned, I think in the Middle East and Ukraine, we absolutely have to be involved in because, to put it very bluntly, if we aren't, we're going to be next. These are all part of, I've just come back from the States where I've been visiting with some of the world's, I think, most top geopolitical experts. And as a so-called geopolitical expert myself, I was very interested in their views. So, I mean, I've met with a former ambassador, a former CIA bureau chief, people like that, the editor of the largest newspaper in the United States, people who really understand their geopolitics. And every one of them is saying the same thing. Putin is behind all of this. This is all about Putin with Iran, with China. So Yemen, the Houthis, Hamas, Gaza, Ukraine, it's all part of an orchestrated program that Putin is running.
So is it perhaps cruder but more accurate to say, because we use the words geopolitics rightly, and in the context you talk about, absolutely right, but is it more a case of it's in our national interest? So down in the Yemen, they block the Red Sea, 15% of world trade goes through there, that pushes up prices, and we go on another inflation spiral. Or in Ukraine, we'd be, less than, 1,500 miles, 2,000 miles from the Russians on the front if they took over Ukraine? That's in our national interest.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, anybody out on the street protesting against these things, in my view, with respect, is grievously wrong. Taking your first example, the Red Sea, the Straits of Hormuz, it's 15% of world shipping. I mean, that's an extraordinary amount. Nobody is immune from that. It's between 20 and 25% of world oil. Same thing. We are going to see our oil prices shooting up. I've been asked.
They've started to move already, haven't
4%.
They? Yeah.
I was asked on another program earlier today for my prediction. I don't think oil's 75 to 80, depending. You know, Texas West is 75 and the other is 80, and I don't see them moving much above 90 or 95. So I hopefully won't reach crisis point, but you never know.
Well, yeah, but where does this go? Because I think it's linked. I mean, okay, so we agree, and I'll be very interested in what viewers and listeners think of this. So do call me 0344 499 1000. I will take your calls as soon as I can, which will be soon. But let me ask you this: where does we've started something now? At what point do we say enough? We've kind of said to the Houthis now, well, you see, you know, we drew a red line. You've been attacking our ships. You haven't done what we said. We've sent missiles in and we've bombed you. But this is how they all start, isn't it? With a limited action and escalate.
The geopolitical experts that I spoke with feel that this is all part of Putin's plan. And that actually we had no choice, but we have played into the hands of Putin and Iran by attacking. They wanted us to. They want this to escalate. Exactly why what's meant to happen next in their playbook is not clear to anybody.
But Putin wants to destabilize all of the world so he can further his own ambition. I'll tell you what, Roger, as powerful as your thoughts are, I keep promising people I'm going to take calls. The lines are already flashing away.
Sure.
Let's go and join Heather from Scotland. Hello, Heather. Heather, hello. Oh, right. So, in fact, when they said they had Heather from Scotland, it was not true at all. So we will come back to your words of wisdom.
Well, his playbook is said to be certainly to restore Mother Russia to its former glory, but also he is aligned with the mullahs in Iran and others to rid the West of its, quote, satanic, unquote, ways. Now, it may not work. We may be corrupt and rotten to the core in many ways, but it's a heck of a lot better than what they've got, and it's the best thing we have. So, I mean, the man on the street is going to be affected by this if we don't fight back, if we don't pour the money in, which we can ill afford. It won't be very long before this arrives on our doorstep.
Why is it only the UK that's coughed up $2.5 billion so far? France have apparently gone there today to pledge they'll do something. The EU seem to be squabbling over it. And I'm sorry, the Republicans in America are a disgrace, in my opinion, because they're not authorising any more support.
They're one at a time. They're using a crucial issue, the Republicans, to play a political game, which may not be the smartest thing to do, because we're now at a crisis point. The Houthis, somebody said to me, let's wipe out the Houthis like Israel's going to do with Hamas. The Houthis are 10 times larger than Hamas. If this escalates, this is going to be tough. This could turn into a very serious
But to the point
war.
on money for Ukraine, briefly, because we've now got Heather on the line, so I want to go to her in a second. Why are the Americans holding up the money? What's going on in Congress there?
I think it's probably a reaction to the fact that old Joe Biden gave $6 billion to Iran.
Yeah, well, he gave a lot,
which is, frankly, directly connected, say many, to the 7th October atrocities. And I think that's what's holding them back.
But it's interesting, messages coming in, and the first one, when British interests are at stake, it is vital we are involved. We can't sit back and let others fight for us. It would be a dereliction of duty and a sign of weakness, says Amanda. Let's see what Heather has to say in Scotland. Hello, Heather. Thank you for calling. What can...
Hello. I've been listening to what both of you have been saying.
Yes.
Regarding to what America and what UK has been doing for Ukraine, there's something's got to give here, because we have pumped Ukraine with a lot of money, a lot of weapons, and now we're fighting in the Red Sea of our cargo ships and container ships and oil tanker ships. Yes, that needs to be done, because we need to get rid of these idiot people, the Houthis, really are putting our country and America to ransom here. And this is the consequences of getting involved with Iran by making deals with them. It's talk about dancing with the devil itself.
Basically, we tried to buy them off, didn't we, with money and think they'd behave, and it's all come back to haunt us in a big way.
And this is there lies the consequences here by getting involved with countries like them.
Heather, do you mention money as well? I think you did. And the fact of the matter is, we've now given something like 12 billion in support to Ukraine, including effectively, as you say, vital lethal aid. Would you row back on that, or do you support the fact?
Yeah, row back on Ukraine, because someone's got to give. Because look at our infrastructure of this country: poor housing, poor schools, bad NHS. We need every single money that counts to repair the mess of this good country of ours. This country used to be a good country, but look at us now. We are in a real bad situation.
OK, Heather, you've passionately put your view across. Thank you very much for that. Roger, Heather, she says row back on Ukraine because the money should be spent here, yet she's really thinks it's really important to continue the struggle down in the Yemen. Yeah, it's not a choice, though, is it?
She's right, but it's a balancing act every day, in the sense that I think the Ukraine probably comes behind the Red Sea. In the Red Sea, we are immediately threatened. They are cutting off our food and water and fuel, and we can't stand for that. So whatever that costs, you know, I mean, we have to make that sacrifice. Ukraine needs to be analyzed a bit more carefully because it isn't as direct a threat.